On today's episode of All Grown Up Psych, our guest is the wonderful Ashleigh Crystal Hairston. I wanted to let you know that due to an inexplicable Zoom glitch, the audio is slightly warped, and so at points it may sound like our voices are deeper or more stretched out than they actually are, for which I apologize. Hopefully it doesn't impact your listening experience too much and you still enjoy this amazing episode. As always, thanks for listening and never grow up. I'm all grown up. Psych! Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is one of the fastest rising stars in animation. She's an actor, voice actor, writer, and producer. You may recognize her as the iconic Babs Bunny in Tiny Toons University, as Ren the Science Whiz from Craig of the Creek, and soon to be the new goddaughter of our two favorite fairies. Please give it up for Ashleigh Crystal Hairston. Hey, how you doing today, Ash?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. That was such a fun intro.
Thanks for being here. Well, before we dive in, we got to take a moment to acknowledge the big news that has recently broken, that you will be playing Hazel Wells in the new series, Fairly Oddparents, A New Wish. So congratulations on that.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's still a shock to even hear now that people know. It's like a shock to hear it said back to me.
Isn't it kind of wild that I saw in 2019 you told Voyage LA that you didn't know very much about the VO world, and look at you now.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you remember that? Yeah. I had a interview for Voyage LA, and this all sort of started in like 2018. I think I booked my very first role.
Right.
And that was for Marvel, Avengers Assemble. And
then that was the Black Panther one, yeah.
It was Black Panther's Quest, yeah. That was my very first voiceover role. Like, I remember everything that was going on in my acting. So I moved to Los Angeles to do acting.
Yep.
My acting career was like finally taking off in 2018.
Yeah.
And I started to like book all of these like guest star and like co-star roles in 2018 into 2020. And it was just like on the rise. And then pandemic happened, and then it was like voiceover, boom, 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 animation, all things animation right away.
These things happen for a reason. And so speaking of voiceover, you have said that people used to make fun of your voice. They used to make fun of the way you talked. It made you not like your voice, that you grew up with different diverse cultural influences, and it kind of made you think of yourself as an other sometimes. You were code switching often because you had a mostly white school, a mostly black church. And I think all of that is very important for people to hear, especially the young people. I relate to you fully. But let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Who was making fun of your voice, and what were they saying?
Well, I grew up in Bellevue, Washington, which is city 10 minutes outside of Seattle. And it is predominantly white. And my family, like most of our world, existed in Seattle as well, because my dad was a pastor of a church, predominantly black church in the south end of Seattle. And so we would, most of our life existed in Seattle and around church and like the families that went to our church and all of that. But then during the week, I'd go to school, and we lived in Bellevue, Washington. So I had all of my, white friends at school, and then all of my black friends and black family members in Seattle and all of that. So it was very much like kind of living in two different worlds. So then, growing up, once I got to like middle school, high school, all of that, in social circles, I'd be like going to, the basketball games at like the cool high schools in Seattle. And guys would always, approach and talk to me and be like, is that your real voice? They would always, question, oh, am I putting on like an accent, or am I trying to sound like a Valley girl? Like I got called out for that, for speaking proper, like sounding too much like a white girl.
That's
basically.
Wild.
Yeah. But every time at school too, like, in social settings, people would be like, is that your real voice? Because then they thought I was also putting on like a voice. Like there's no way I could talk this proper, or talk this like animated sounding, or like, they thought that I was also putting on a voice at school too.
Right.
And that followed all the way into college as well. Like even so I went to a Black college, an HBCU, which is where I am right now in DC, Washington, DC. I went to Howard University, and I was like, oh, finally I'm going to, fit in, and I'm going to feel like this is home and all of that. And I did, for sure. Absolutely. But I still got questions about my voice. Like, immediately people would be like, where are you from? I'd be like, Seattle. And they'd be like, there's Black people in Seattle? And I'd be like, yeah, me and my whole family. And then they all thought that I was also having an accent, like a West Coast accent, which I didn't know that was even a thing.
Right, right.
And so I remember, like when I was younger, literally trying to change my voice to sound like, my friends, outside of school or wherever. Yeah. Like I would practice saying hello with like, more cool sounding voice. So I would like just try to practice like dialect, like speaking in another dialect to try to fit in, I guess. And then that, of course, led to just me, not liking the sound of my voice, and every time I would hear it back, I'd be like, I hate it. I hate it. I hate my voice. Oh, God, because people were always calling it out as different. So
I relate to you fully because my background is Guyanese. I'm Caribbean.
Oh, beautiful.
And then growing up in Queens, New York, sort of a member of so many different communities. And so your voice inadvertently does change from whether you're at home, you're among your friends, or even when you get older. I think everybody's got like a customer service voice, right?
Absolutely. Sure.
What was the first time that you can remember feeling comfortable, if that moment has arrived?
Truly, yes. Like now. In my elder 30 years, it's taken a lot of therapy. Number one, I started going to therapy in 2021, which is, when I actually booked Tiny Toons as well.
Yeah.
Which was a whole other thing, a whole other like mental process and spiritual growth. It's crazy how booking these roles can really affect you,
Yeah, big time.
Affect your identity and all of that stuff. And so I got in Tiny Toons, and I was not as confident then. I am a person who, based on my background, I realized, having now gone through therapy and, figured out a lot of this stuff, that the way that I grew up, while it was wonderful and beautiful and great, and I loved my childhood and, adolescence, all of that stuff, it is such a journey, and there's been a lot of growth, and there was a lot of like challenges, like personal and emotional challenges as well. So I struggled a lot with low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and low self-worth. All of that sort of developed from my othering, ness. All of that sort of, is a product of that. And so when I booked Tiny Toons, like that was, for me, that was like, oh, this is the thing that I'm going to latch on to, and this is going to make me, this is going to be who I am. This is how people are going to perceive me as, oh, Ashleigh, the one that, if she's playing Babs Bunny, she must be amazing, And so I immediately like latched on to that character and that role in this show as the thing that's going to make me. And I quickly discovered throughout the process that, a role cannot make you. Why is this still going off? A show cannot make you. A TV, any producers, whatever they tell you, they don't make who you are. Right. They don't decide who you are. And I had aligned myself so hard with that. So what does that mean? Whenever I would go into records, I would panic. This is first season. I would panic because if I didn't get feedback that was positive from them, that was a reflection on me, I thought, So I would immediately internalize all of that. And what does that do? Cause my brain to spiral and be like, oh yeah, all of these things are true. These are all the negative thoughts that you had about yourself that you internalized all throughout your childhood. And now this, production, these producers, this cast, this voice director, they're saying it back to you, and it's true. And you start to like internalize all that. So luckily, like, thank God I started therapy at the same time. And thank God that I did, because then I was able to, realize none of that makes who I am. Like,
Yeah.
I am great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me. There's absolutely nothing wrong with my voice. My voice is what it is, regardless of where I am, where I grew up, how I grew up. This is my voice, and
Yeah.
I can't change it. And it's unique and special because of all of that. Um, and and yeah, all of the, like, booking the role, like, they could take the role away from me. Like, I got to a point, thankfully, finally, where I was like, if they were to cancel the show, and because I'm sure you are aware, during, like, the Tiny Toons in the beginning, we were looking for a Buster Bunny,
Mm-hmm.
and they had gone through multiple, different Busters. I think that's kind of known all throughout
For
now.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we were all, at least I was very, I can't speak for everyone, but we had talked about it, but the cast, we were all kind of on edge. We were worried about if we were going to lose our roles as
Of
well,
course. Yeah.
And so for me, for a person who's going in, like, desperately, like, needing this to make who I am, the
Yeah.
thought of me getting recast was like horrifying,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so what does that do to a performer? I can't go in and perform my best when I'm on edge, thinking that I'm going to get fired and recast, at any point in time with no heads up.
Yeah.
And so I know from a, performing perspective and an actor, like, I know that affected my performance, for a while in the beginning of recording for Tiny Toons, but thankfully got through that. It also is my first series regular role in an animated series, so I had that added pressure as well.
Yeah.
And it was such a gift to me, and I was not expecting it at all. I don't know if you've heard that story too.
Totally.
About
I was going to say
accepting.
it's funny that you mentioned the lack of confidence, because at first when Joan Ford from UCB asked you to read, you didn't want to read for Babs. You just read for Shirley.
Correct. Yeah. I was like, oh, there's no way they're going to
Yeah.
cast me. I was like, not interested at all. I
Right.
was like, I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that I was enough. I just didn't think that at all. It was like, of course, they're going to book someone who has bigger name, bigger celebrity, whatever. And then not realizing I have plenty of experience to be able to hop into that role. Not to mention, I connect so much with that. Like, Babs is, I grew up with Babs Bunny.
Yeah.
Like, I see so many similarities in our character and, like, our lives. And so, yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I was going to pass on it. I auditioned for Shirley, and thankfully my agents then also sent the audition in. And I was like, oh, by the way, I already, submitted for Shirley. And they were like, okay, so we need an audition from you for Babs as well. And I was like, okay. I was
Thank
like,
God.
sure.
Thank God you did it.
Fine. I know. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine
That would
if
have
I
been the
just
worst.
let
Yeah.
that moment go by?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's a
Those are
lesson for
those
all
little
of us.
pivotal moments in our timelines, you know?
Thank God I did, for sure, because I've learned so much too. Even stepping into that role, I've grown so much. I'm a better person from taking it. Like, oh my goodness, life really is just blossomed.
Yeah. You just mentioned connecting with Babs because you grew up with Tiny Toons, and so that brings me to you are a 1990 baby, correct?
Yes.
Was there some hesitation there?
Meaning, like, I grew up watching cartoons in the 90s,
Yes.
or was I born in the 90s?
Actually, either.
I was not born in the 90s.
No way. Okay, wait. That's you know what? I just assumed that you were because of how much you said. Okay, that's kind of even cooler.
No, I'm a little bit older.
What? I thought you were about to say younger.
I was already born.
Okay, if I'm not going to pry that information out of you if you
You
don't want
know.
to share, but that is I am truly mind blown right now. I thought you were about to say like I was born in 2001 or something like that. Then
My gosh. No, I'm not. I was not born in the 2000s.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
Thank
you are a
you.
'90s kid then. We can say that.
I'm a 90s kid. I like
Okay. Well,
that. Yeah.
me too. I was born in
Oh,
80. I was
okay.
born in '89, but I'm a '90s kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're around the same age.
Okay. Perfect. So now, now, then back to the '90s. Let's talk a little '90s shit right now. What were your favorite cartoons? I mean, I assume Tiny Toons, but what other cartoons, if you could just think of a few, were you really connecting with?
Yes, loved. So Tiny Toons, Looney Tunes, of course. Um, I also was very much a Rugrats kid. I was
Yeah.
very much a Doug kid. I
Oh
was
yeah.
Chippendales. I was DuckTales was my favorite. Yeah, Chippendales Rescue Ranger, Scooby Doo, Pink Panther. Loved the Jetsons. Are
Hell
you
yeah.
old enough to know the
For
Jetsons?
sure.
Okay. Jetsons, Flintstones, that was my jam. Loved Flintstones. Ren and Stimpy was
Uh huh.
one of my favorites because it was just so weird and bizarre. I loved like ripping the skin. I love like I bet you'll see some influence of that, of like that in me, in Fairly Odd Parents. But yeah, I loved like weird shapes and like a lot of physical comedy and physical humor. I was very much into that, and that came from Ren and Stimpy. Just like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah. Oh, Tom and Jerry.
For sure.
Loved Tom and Jerry. Those were the main ones, I would say.
That's a pretty solid roster. Now, give me some of your favorite live action shows from the '90s.
Oh my gosh. Okay, definitely was a Nick kid too in the 90s, like
Dope. Yeah. Yeah.
Salute Your Shorts and Snick at Night.
All day.
Remember Snick at Night?
How could I
Um,
forget? Keenan and Kel
Are
was my
You
jam.
Afraid of the Dark? Keenan and Kel. Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was one of my favorites. Dare. Then there was Double Dare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
Mark Summers, baby.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Uh
Still
huh.
wish I could go on that show one day.
I always remember when kids would fail on that show. I'd be like, man, if I was on there, I would be rocking right
I
now.
know. Yes.
Delusions
Oh
of
my.
grandeur.
I imagined myself always during the final,
Yeah.
like challenge where they had to run and get to Olmec. And I feel like judging them, like, no, go the other way, go, like screaming at the TV. Like, I could have easily gotten through. They would always get so scared when the people would come out and scare them. I'm like, they're there. They're there. Just run, like, punch them and run.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Do you know who voiced Olmec?
Oh my gosh. Who, wait, I know this
This
is
is not going to surprise you at
trivia.
all. This is not going to surprise you at all.
Who?
D. Bradley Baker,
Oh, of
of
course.
course.
He was in, I got to meet Dee Bradley Baker once on a episode. I did a recording for Squirrel Girl. Did you
Yeah.
ever
Uh
watch
huh.
that when it came out?
Yep.
Yeah. And I got to meet him during that, and he was so kind, so nice.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Who were your '90s celebrity crushes?
This is so funny because I literally just sent a picture to my family chat because my mom got a haircut. My mom got a haircut, and I put a picture in because she looked like my crush, who I'll show you a picture. I bet you know who I'm going to say. He was everyone's crush.
Are you about to say Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
Yes!
No way.
How did you know?
Because you that was a
Because
good hit when you said he
haircut.
was everyone's crush. Haircut. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm showing you my mom's haircut. Okay, here she is. And then I
And that does look like she pulled up to the salon with that picture, right? It was like, yo, give me the
give me
JTT.
this, give me the JTT. And I used to I used to have Bop magazine, which
Uh-huh.
was, it would be Bop, and there was another one, Tiger Beat.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah, and so it was Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I loved Devin Sawa.
Yep.
He was in Casper, and he was very spicy love scene at the end where they danced and then kissed. And
Absolutely,
in my
absolutely.
mind, I was like, "Whoa!" Rewind it a million times so I could watch it, you know?
Well,
Um,
that scene recently has. There's so many people that are our peer group that has revealed that as their sexual awakening.
yes, me too. I remember feeling tingly and feeling like, oh, like getting chills, like, wow, that's really love. And I want to have that moment where I kiss a ghost and he turns into a real boy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Devin Sawa, he was great. Who else were my crushes? Usher was my huge. I used to have Usher all over my binder. Like he truly in when I was in middle school, my binder was just remember like
Oh, of
well,
course.
this
We used
wasn't a trapper keeper, but they were like you could put pictures on the inside of your
totally.
binder on the
Yeah.
front, the
Uh-huh.
plastic.
Yep.
And mine was all Usher and
Did you enjoy the halftime show this year?
I did. I did. And I jumped up and screamed. Ah! I was like, touchdown when he took off his shirt. But it's so weird, too. I was just talking about this and I was like, this is a man who I have been seeing his stomach muscles for 20 years,
Oh yeah.
well over 20 years. And is it weird to say, like, when I saw him take off his shirt, I was like, oh, yeah, I know that stomach. Like, it felt very familiar to me. Like, I've been looking and lusting over this man for since I was a child.
It's a core memory for you. Yeah.
The core memory, yeah. Him just being sweaty and like taking off and having these abs and goggles on his head. I thought that was so cool.
And he's remained in
Um,
shape for that entire time. It's crazy.
he has his abs, his like stomach muscles have not changed.
Yeah. I was about to ask you about favorite musical artist next, but it sounds like it was Usher.
It was Usher then, yeah.
Yep. All right. Favorite toys from the 90s, if you can remember.
Oh, my favorite toys from the 90s? Definitely Polly Pockets.
Yeah.
I was a Barbie kid.
Uh-huh.
I had lots of Barbies. I had one of the big Barbie mansions, like that was like 3 stories and it had an elevator to get you
Love it.
up and down. Had all the Barbie cars. So yeah, I was a Barbie girl. I was a Polly Pocket girl. I was a GAC kid. Do you
Gak,
remember
yo,
GAC?
all day, all day. Those commercials were amazing. I mean,
I
yeah,
know.
hours of fun when you got the gag, just squishing that shit for no reason. Yeah.
Which is wild because kids do that now, but they call it slime, and it's basically the same thing
And it's
as
still
GAC.
Nickelodeon brand, right?
And it's Nickelodeon. Yeah, I don't know if slime is technically Nickelodeon. My niece makes slime, and she she actually charges kids to rehabilitate their slime. So for whatever reason, it gets like dirty, and
It does. So your niece has a brilliant business mind. That's a
isn't
great
that?
idea. Because
I
even with,
know.
with back in the day with Gak and Play-Doh and shit, it
It,
would get dirty
it
if you
gets
were,
yes,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. And so the kids at her school, they bring her bring her their slime, and she takes it home and she works on it in her garage, and then she brings it back for a small fee. And yeah, the kids have slime again.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Like I wish
okay.
I would have thought of that back in the 90s.
I know
I
that would
don't
have
know.
probably been pretty
I
lucrative.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, other toys, what else was there that I loved? I was a board game kid, I loved like Shoots and Ladders, Candyland, I loved Monopoly, I loved um Trouble, the game Trouble. I used to
Yes.
play that nonstop.
Uh-huh.
Loved like popping the little bubble thing and like
Very pleasing. Yeah.
it was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Perfection. That was another one I used to
Perfection. Talk
play
about
nonstop.
anxiety.
Exactly. That probably contributed to all of our anxiety as
Probably.
90s kids. Yeah.
You remember the commercial when it was like to the tune of like put the pieces into the slot, make the right selection,
Oh my
pop goes
gosh.
perfection.
Oh, I love that. I didn't remember, but yes.
Give me your favorite video games from the 90s.
I tried to become a video game person during pandemic.
Okay.
we, I know, and I failed. I got a Nintendo Switch,
Yeah.
not Twitch, right? I got a Switch, and then I was like, I'm going to become a gamer. And it was confusing. It was too confusing. I got like two games. I got Mario Kart.
Classic. Yeah.
And a scary game, a horror one.
Was it Luigi's Mansion?
Luigi's Scary Mansion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I tried to play and I couldn't get past like the intro of it. And so I didn't know what to do. And then I got confused and then I put it away. And I was like, I don't know how people spend so many hours doing video games. I wish I could be that person.
I'll hand it to you. Switch is pretty confusing for me too. I was a big video game kid in the
I'm not the
90s.
only one.
NES, Sega Genesis, the object of the game was to get from the left of the screen to the right of the screen.
Right.
And it wasn't that complicated.
We did have a Nintendo, the original like gray box
Hell yeah.
one, with two controllers. And we only had Mario Brothers, and that I believe it came with Duck Hunt. So I don't know if that was like a pairing or how it came, or because that's just all we had.
Yeah.
I think later on we got like maybe Super Mario or something. But that's like the only game that we had, the only like video game situation that we had. And I loved it. I loved, playing Mario Brothers, I would switch it back and forth between my characters. I wasn't always just one,
Yep.
Luigi or the princess or Mario. We did that and that. Oh, Game Boy. That was the other thing.
Yes.
I was a big Game Boy kid.
Dope. Okay, what was your Game Boy game of choice?
Oh gosh. Now I have to remember. I don't remember.
Were you a Pokemon person?
No, not Pokemon. I had a cousin who worked for Nintendo at the time.
So you had the plug.
So I had it, yes. So she used to get me Game Boys like easily. Like I remember I started off with the regular, first Game Boy.
Old school one,
and then I remember I got a red one.
That was like Game Boy Pocket. Game Boy Pocket.
Okay, so I got a red one. And then I remember I got a clear one. I had a clear Game Boy.
That was your Game Boy Color.
Okay. Amazing. And then I had a little one. Or was that the main?
No.
My main one was
the little one came after you talked. That was probably depending on when you got it, would have been Game Boy Advance or Game Boy SP.
Oh wow. Yeah. So I had a lot of different versions.
Yeah. Okay. That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
What was your favorite snack from the 90s that is no longer around?
My favorite candies when I was younger were Now and Laters, Mambas.
Okay.
We used to drink a lot of Slurpees.
Tight.
That was my like go-to snack whenever we would go stop at a gas station or somebody would get a snack, a Slurpee and a beef jerky stick.
Can't beat it.
Donuts.
Can't beat it.
Perfect combination. It's like sweet and savory. You get white powdered donuts with a beef jerky stick and then wash it all down with a blueberry, cherry, strawberry Slurpee. Delicious.
Peak childhood right there.
Imagine all that now, sugar galore. Oh gosh.
Oh man.
Yeah, but so let's see, what other candies did I love? Did I say Laffy Taffy?
You didn't, but noted.
Delicious. Yeah. Jawbreakers. Who wouldn't love Jawbreakers?
Did you used to watch Ed, Edd and Eddy?
No, I didn't.
That was a big plot point. I think one of their main goals in life was just to get as many jawbreakers as possible.
Oh my gosh. I remember I had one for the longest time just to and I would just lick it and put it away and then keep licking it. And my mouth was all white and gunky from it. And you just save it because it takes forever to eat. You just keep licking and licking.
Oh yeah.
So I think I liked more so the look of it than like the actual taste and like eating it, you know?
For sure, for sure.
Oh, you know what else I loved? Fruit by the foot.
Yo, can't
That
beat
was
it.
like, that was the best. I had that in all my lunches, fruit by the foot and fruit roll-ups. I loved fruit by the foot more because
Uh-huh.
you could wrap it around your finger
Yep.
and then suck on your finger throughout the day.
Uh-huh.
Or I used to wrap it around my thumb. I used to be a thumb sucker when I was little. And so I would just wrap the fruit by the foot around my thumb and then just suck on my thumb.
And both of those had amazing commercials.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
didn't ask about cereals, 90s cereals. Is
Please
that
share.
coming up?
Please share.
90s cereals. Okay, we got Fruit Loops
Yep.
was my favorite.
Toucan Sam.
Honeycomb, also
Yes.
delicious. Remember
Do
that?
you remember that crazy little motherfucker that was their mascot?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love that guy.
Love that guy. I mean, obviously, Frosted Flakes was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
They're great.
My man Tony.
Tony the Tiger. And then, so I was never a Kix kid, but I loved Reese's Peanut Butter Cup
Oh
balls,
yeah.
or what's it,
Reese's
Puffs.
Puffs. Yeah.
Reese's Puffs, yeah. That was one of my favorites as well. Oh, and Rice Krispies,
Uh-huh.
not treats, but love Rice
The
Krispie
treats too.
treats
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So good. Rice Krispies, Frosted Flakes, Reese's Puffs, Fruit Loops, Fruit. There was another one. Tricks. I did not like Tricks. Tricks are for kids.
Damn. Yeah. Silly
Yeah.
rabbit.
Silly Rabbit. Tricks are for kids. Yeah, they were really good with the. You know what? Oh, where are these characters now?
You
You
know, a
know,
lot of
they
them have been discontinued, unfortunately.
why?
That's a great question. Probably due to just bad marketing decisions.
Horrible marketing, but no one's ever come up with an animated series featuring them.
Did you maybe just come up with the next idea?
Yeah, it could be all of them, you know, coming back and trying to clear their reputation.
Yeah, imagine like a little multiverse with them. They're kind of like washed up. They
Exactly.
need to get back in the
Yes,
biz.
exactly.
Maybe
They're
we could
trying to get
dialogue
back.
about this.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it off camera.
Absolutely, absolutely. You used to prank call your mom at work, and so even though being a voice actor maybe at that time wasn't in your head, you kind of were doing it already. Do you remember what your favorite like go to prank call voice was?
Yes, it was always a British accent. I would always,
Dope, dope, dope.
yeah, I would always call my mom at work and ask for her because back then, yeah, I feel like I would call every day after school because she still worked and we would come home, and so we would always call. And I'm sure I don't know any like kids who used to call their parents at work before cell phones came. We would have to call the office.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
wild.
Her phone number, like it's embedded in my brain too. 685-6927-206. Remember that? But yeah, I used to call and ask for her. 44. Oh, all the numbers are coming back. That's so funny. But I used to call, yeah, and ask for her with a British accent. And then
At a certain point, did the receptionist always know it was you?
yeah.
Yeah,
They're like, June, your daughter is on the other line, on line one.
that's mad funny. That's mad funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had no idea that I was doing voices. I was just doing
Practicing
it.
for your future
Yeah,
career.
exactly.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You know, when you first came to LA, your main goal was to be an on-camera actor, and you didn't necessarily
Yes.
realize that you were going to have so much success in the voiceover world. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
is that still something you're as interested in, or do you feel like your goals have shifted at all?
Oh no. So I've had this conversation with myself, like what's next, because I am, a lot of opportunities have come, out of voiceover and animation, and I love it so much, and I'm having so much fun, and I have all these like great ideas now that I want to like see through. And so, yeah, definitely for sure gonna go back to acting at some point.
Yeah.
And now I'm just realizing, oh, I can do it all. Why not? Like, there's no rush, this
Uh-huh.
is just part of my career. I've gone on another path than what I imagined or planned for myself. And I'm just exploring, and I'm very grateful to, you know, those who have come before me and those who have been in animation, like, really just like creating opportunities and creating shows, like all due respect, because I
Mm-hmm.
realize I am like a new voice and a new person, kind of coming in. I'm an outsider, I would say. So I feel very grateful and very appreciative that I have the space to create shows and to write and all of that stuff. And I realize, I still feel very new, technically, I would say my animation career started in 2020. So like 4 years in, and that so much has happened.
A lot.
Sometimes what I've accomplished in 4 years, it takes people 20 years to do.
Yeah.
And so, I'm very grateful to be in this position. And yeah, I absolutely 100% am going to do keep pursuing acting. Like I want to do, TV. I want to do film. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
in big blockbuster movies, wearing monochromatic outfits and running, being chased by a CG character
Fuck yeah.
animal.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I want to do, yeah, I want to do big franchises like King Kong and Jurassic Park. Like that is my big dream. Like,
That's what
but
I like to
then
hear.
on the animation side, like I want to still create shows. I
Yep.
want to here's my big, you want to hear my big, gigantic dream?
Would love to.
Okay. One of them is to be in an animated series that has a ride at an amusement park, and I voice that world and those characters as well. So I want like, rides, amusement park big. Like when you're standing in line, you're listening to my
Yeah.
voice, and you're seeing my characters like in action and all that stuff.
There is no reason that can't happen for you. That's probably around the corner.
Whoa. That would be amazing. They'd have to really redo the Six Flags here in Los Angeles. Have you been?
I have Magic Mountain.
Yeah. Did you know? Is it Magic Mountain?
I
Where is
I think so. Up north a little bit.
where in Santa Clarita? There's a Six Flags, and did you know? I didn't even know this. I went there for the first time. I think probably. I feel like maybe I went when I was a kid, but I went there for the first time like a few years ago, like right before pandemic, actually, and I didn't realize that that's all where all the like Warner Brothers property
Yes,
characters
correct.
are and all
Yeah.
that stuff. I didn't know. I was like, what the heck? And so I was like, oh, Tiny Toons could be here. Like, why did they should have a Tiny Toons land,
Big
or
facts.
like, yeah, bring all
No,
those
there's
characters
so
there.
much potential there.
So much potential.
You know Eric Bauza.
Yes.
Bauza has
Yes.
the most amazing. I'm sure you've seen the most amazing pictures
Oh,
from when he was at that Six Flags as a
uh,
kid.
yes. Yes. So sweet. I love that because it just goes to show all of these things, it's they're like stamped, embedded in our membrane and our aura and our like our being, and then they just kind of follow us throughout life. It's almost predestined, when you're exposed at that age. Like I just love to see the confirmation of like that seed that was planted when he was a kid. um
Absolutely.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I have a little similar thing like that when I was a kid, my cousins used to call me the queen of the little mamas.
Uh-huh.
And they would like clap and they would make me dance and I would like dance and they would call me, that's the queen of the little mamas.
Yep.
Who knows what that means? Who are the little mamas? We don't know, but I was always known as the queen of the little mamas. And so now in my adult years, I just got a tattoo. Well, let me start over. My first show that I sold in 2020 was called The Curly Crown. And it was very much about this little girl. She worked in a hair salon, but it's all about like confidence and beauty and the crown she would wear on her head, which is her hair,
Uh-huh.
the curly crown. So then when I sold that, I started my business as well. And I called it the Queen of the Little Mamas Incorporated.
Love it.
And then, so then got this tattoo in last year,
That's
which is
dope.
a crown. It's because I went to see Basquiat, a Basquiat exhibit in LA, and loved like just, the artwork. And I've always been a fan of Basquiat, but like this, and they really broke down like the meaning of his crowns, the symbolism that's there all the time
Yeah.
that he loved to paint. And then so it talked about, royalty and, being black and then what that means and what our, purpose is here on earth and how we, art shapes all of that and, all of that, just like celebrating that royalty, the royalness of blackness. And so I got this
That's
and I was
amazing.
like, oh, I'm gonna get a tattoo. And then I was in a meeting for Fairly Oddparents, and everyone's like, oh my God, you got a fairy crown. And I was like, no, I didn't. And they were like, yes. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
I got,
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
isn't that amazing?
Well, not only that though, also don't forget that your first major voice role was the Queen of Wakanda.
Oh my gosh.
Bask. Kind of similar to Basquiat. It's that's
Oh
what's
my
happening right now.
God. Got chills from my head down to my right ankle.
That's pretty wild when you think about it, right?
Bask, Basquiat.
It's a
I
pretty
didn't
wild
even
series
think
of
of that.
connections. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yes, exactly. The Queen of Wakanda. What else could there be coming up?
What else
Ooh.
could be coming up? Absolutely. Speaking of that role, since that was really the first one, and before that you weren't necessarily thinking about it, did that opportunity come up in the traditional way? Was it just something that an agent submitted you for and was like, hey, you should try this out?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I got my agent. And then that was like one of the first auditions. I'm pulling it up right now, my email.
Nice.
This is my audition. I recorded it on the floor in my bedroom. And then I
Nice.
got a call back from it. This was, okay, 2017 booking. Okay, so 2017, Marvel. So this is even better. So originally the role was titled Bask, and they ended up having to change the name to Bask with a K. So
Yeah.
that's even more cool that like it was one thing and it changed to Bask.
That is more
Anyway,
cool. Yeah.
oh, wow. So we received a note of, okay, so this was September checking. Here you go. Okay, so 2017. Yeah, wow. My apologies for the delay in getting this in. Hope it's not too late.
That's what you
That
said?
was, yeah.
It turns out it
Marvel. So
wasn't too late.
August. It wasn't too late. Marvel's Black Panther Quest Role of Boss. This was August 30th, 2017. Um, and I went, yeah. And then here we go. I sent that in. It sent me the sides, and I was like, oh my gosh. Because at this time, too, Black Panther hadn't come out yet either,
Right.
like the, live
The
action film.
movie. Yeah.
And so, but there was talk about it, I want to say. And so I was like, whoa, this is huge. And so, and I wasn't a comic book person
Okay.
either. So I didn't know, like, I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't know the significance and like, I didn't know how big of a deal. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is the comic book world. This is from Marvel. Like, I got to go. So I went to the library and I checked out all of the, like, any kind of Black Panther related
Did your
comics.
research. Yeah.
I did my research. Yeah. because I was like, I gotta know how to approach this. Who is this character? All of that stuff. Um, and okay, so yeah, I sent that in, and then I got a call back for it. Let's see. Ooh, yeah, that's so cool. Redirect. Yeah, I got a call back for it, and they asked, I'm attaching it for reference, but they do want a younger sound. Oh, right, because my first audition was really deep voiced.
Okay, yeah.
And then I sent in a redirect, and then a booking.
And the rest is history. Wow.
And the rest is history.
That's
And that was crazy because when I went in, it was like, that was my first and only really ensemble record as well. So Phil Lamar was there, who I have, admired since his In Living Color days.
Legend.
I know, legend. And so I was like, oh my God, and he's playing my twin brother, and we were placed next to each other. Like,
wow, what an experience.
Did I say In Living Color? I meant Mad TV, I think. Sorry.
All good.
Yeah. But yeah, so he was there. D. Bradley Baker was there. Trey, Tara Strong. Tara Strong was there. Who else? Troy, who was so many people. It was like all these legends, voiceover legends.
No, you were in the room with some heavy hitters.
Yeah, I was, and I was like, wow, how is this even happening for my very first record?
Yeah.
Boy.
Voiceover starts going really well, and of course, eventually you land the role of Wren in Craig of the Creek. But the dopest thing behind the scenes there that I really want to talk about is the fact that you networked your way into writing by developing rapport with the writers on Craig, and then you posted on Facebook that you were looking for writing jobs, and Cartoon Network contacted you. So let's dissect that though. So you posted that post on your personal Facebook page?
Yes, correct.
So what was the path from there to Cartoon Network to emailing you? Did someone from Cartoon Network that was your Facebook friend see it, or did a Facebook friend forward it to Cartoon Network? How did that?
Yes. Okay. So what happened was I posted on Facebook that I was looking for writing jobs. I have that too, because I just did another interview where I talk about it.
Oh, nice.
So I posted on August 8th, 2019. And I said, hi, I'm looking for writing gigs. If you hear of anything, please think of me. I'm in my 4th year on Mod Night at UCB. I'm currently a writer-performer on Squadron at UCB. I was a staff writer for CBS Showcase this year and wrote and performed in the Showcase in 2018. I was a writer's assistant on a Fox pilot earlier this year and can provide a pilot sample, sketch packet, whatever you need. Thank you in advance, kind souls. And then I got that was August 8th. I got an email August 12th from the supervising producer on Craig of the Creek. Mm-hmm. And she said, hi, Ashleigh, I heard you were looking for writing possibilities, and I wanted to check your interest in attending some writers meetings next week for a few hours with our show creators, Matt Burnett and Ben Levin, along with our story editor, Jeff Trammell. We often have freelance writers come in the room and help break stories, etc. We thought it'd be fun to have you join in. And I didn't know who Kelly Cruz was at the time. She was a supervising producer. I remember I'd only come in to record for Ren.
Sure.
So I knew Matt and Ben from that, and then also Jeff. So I didn't realize that Jeff and I were friends on Facebook,
So he saw it.
So he saw it and he pitched to bring me in.
So dope.
I know. He changed the course of my life.
What you just did is the inverse of Brett Goldstein on Ted Lasso. Do you know that story?
Yeah. I love that show.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. But that's the type of, hustle that I love. It's so inspirational. It just goes to show, you put yourself out there, you take a shot, you make yourself vulnerable, right? By doing that, because
Yeah, by
you put
telling
yourself,
everyone, hey, I need a job.
I need a job, and you're also kind of, I feel like a lot of us are self-conscious, like you're risking a few things. Number one, you're like, what if everyone that sees this thinks it's super cringe? What if,
Exactly.
and then what if I get no responses? So maybe they're right,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah, I thought, okay, do I want everyone to know that I'm struggling and need money?
Yeah.
Really badly. But yeah, it was like, who cares? This is the point. I literally, because I had friends and stuff who, they were getting in writers' rooms, and these are my peers who we grew up together and took classes together and all of that. And
Yeah.
I was just like, well, how, I could also do that. Like, why do I think that I am not capable? But
Big
that was,
facts.
also during that, time period where I thought everyone else was funnier than me. I thought everyone else knew more than me, was smarter than me. Like, I just thought that I, wasn't there yet. But I was, because I had the experience. And
You
it
obviously
just
were,
took,
because
yeah,
you started writing for Ren. You wrote on Wolf Boy, is that right?
yeah, Wolf Boy and the Everything Factory. That happened in 2020 as well.
Yeah, we just missed each other there, because I've done music
Oh,
for a lot of hit record projects. Not that
oh my
one.
God. Oh, wow. What a random sort of connection.
Yeah, I know, and it's funny because like most people, like Wolf Boy, unfortunately, it didn't go beyond. But
Yeah.
so when you mention it, most people are just like, what is that? And usually just like
What is,
the
yeah.
hit record community is familiar, but
Yes. Yeah. It was such a beautiful show and
it
so
was.
sweet. Yeah, that room. So that is where I met Lindsay Kaitai, who is my co-executive producer and co-story editor on Fairly Odd Parents. We were both in the writers' room together
So
on Wolf
dope.
Boy.
Look at the chain of events.
I know, and she's the one who pitched to bring me in for Fairly Odd Parents because they were looking.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you not only have a writer's credit, you got the EP credit on Fairly Odd Parents. So
hmm
what was the impetus there? There was there an idea that they had for this new series, and then they were like, "Hey, Ashleigh would be a great person to bring this to life."
Yes. So they had an idea for a reboot for Fairly Odd Parents. They knew they wanted, a new God kid, and that was it. And so then they started bringing on different, writers to help sort of brainstorm ideas for what this show could be.
Yeah.
I was not a part of that process. That started like late 2021. And so Lindsay Kaitai, she used to write on Infinity Train at Cartoon Network. And then she also wrote on Max and the Midnights at Nickelodeon. And then she also did Wolf Boy and the Everything Factory. So they brought her in for this. And I'd been in before for brainstorms as well, but for different shows at Nickelodeon. And so they brought her on to do brainstorms and kind of come up with a premise for what the show could be, and a
Mm-hmm.
couple of other people too. And she tells the story too that her final time like going in, she didn't realize that was an actual interview for the job.
Wow.
But they ended up bringing her on, and then they had Dave Stone, who came from Rugrats. They brought him on our show as our supervising producer, and on the CG side, the co-EP on the design side. And so they had those two people on the show. And so they knew that they wanted a new God kid. They knew they wanted Cosmo and Wanda back. And they knew that they wanted this kid to be a person of color. And so Lindsay, who is amazing and great and a white woman,
Mm-hmm.
said, I am a white woman. I think it would behoove you all to consider, bringing on a person of color for this project. Um, because she said, I don't feel comfortable moving forward in this position without that.
Yeah, I love that.
And yes, shout out to her. And thankfully they listened, and they were like, okay, well, who can we reach out to, who is, a writer and has the EP experience. And apparently, they were like, we don't really know someone with that exact experience. But then Lindsay was like, oh, I worked with someone over the summer, it was during the summer, back in 2020, her name is Ashleigh Hairston. And they were like, oh my gosh, we know Ashleigh Hairston because during pandemic, I had a meeting with Claudia Spinelli, just a regular general meeting. She's like the head of, I'm gonna like VP of programming or in current series. But she's, a big person at Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
I don't know exact title off the top of my head, but I had a general meeting with her during pandemic, and it was so fun and it went so great. And she had just, knew my background in comedy and sketch comedy and physical comedy, all of that. And so that meeting went great. And then she would just bring me in and invite me for, brainstorms on different shows I got brought in for. She invited me in to sit in with the SpongeBob writers just for no reason at all,
Wow, yeah.
just to ask them questions and just hear about their process. And I thought she was like, oh, because, you're big in physical comedy, like SpongeBob is, huge and like very, physical comedy as well. So she wanted me to meet with them. And then, so I had sort of been building a rapport with Nickelodeon
Yeah.
kind of all throughout pandemic. So when Lindsay mentioned, oh, I know this girl named Ashleigh, she might be a great fit to reach out to. And they were like, yes, of course, duh. And so then they reached out to me, and then they were like, oh, she's also a voice actress. And so then I came in, and I was actually on Jessica's Big Little World at the time.
Uh-huh.
And so I was, slowly building it with the Craig of the Creek family. I had started out as staff writer, really started out as freelance writer, then went to staff writer. Then we started, developing or writing, coming up with the story for the movie as well. And then they made me story editor on our preschool animated series. And then I had also sold my own preschool animated series to Netflix during 2020. So all of this was happening from 2020 to 2022. And I had just gotten like a crash course in all of this, how to approach development. Of my own series, how to approach development from the Jessica side, where I wasn't a co-executive producer, but I was, there for all of that development process. And so, yeah, it was just like all of the things lined up, all of the necessary, everything just really, I don't know, just lined up perfectly.
It's so many pieces that, like, when you look at them individually, it's like, oh, I don't know how they're going to connect. And look how beautifully they did.
So beautifully, so perfect. So then, I ended up leaving Jessica's Big Little World. My show at Netflix didn't move forward. And so I was able to just go and transition over to Nickelodeon.
Fucking brilliant. Oh my God. I'm so hyped for you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. But they were like, yeah, maybe she'd want to do, and I did it again. They were like, maybe she'd want to be the voice of the character. And I said, that's not right. I said, that's probably not okay. And I was like, I don't know. And they were like, what do you mean? People do it all the time. And I was like, who? And they were
Everyone.
like, literally everyone. I was like, name a producer who also inserted them. And I was like, that's just too much, I don't want to seem like I'm, trying to do everything.
Greatest of all time, Walt Disney. Walt Disney did that.
Disney. Oh yeah.
But even my boys Swampy and Dan over at Phineas and Ferb, JG Quintel, regular show. Who could have ever been a better Mordecai than JG Quintel, Seth MacFarlane, there you go, who voices maybe fucking 75% of that show.
Exactly. And I was like, okay, yeah, me and then Seth MacFarlane, I don't think so. And so I was going to pass on that too.
That's wild, Ashleigh.
I know. And casting, Nickelodeon casting, I emailed them. Like, I could pull up the email now where they were like, we're so excited that you came onto this project because you were the first person we thought of when this came to past our desk.
Wow.
And I was like, what the heck? And they're like, you absolutely need to audition. And I was like, fine. If I do it, I'm 100% auditioning for it and earning it, And so I did. I auditioned and I got a call back.
Good for you.
And then I ended up booking it.
Wow, that is an amazing story. That just inspired the shit out of me. If you could bring back just one thing from the 90s, what would it be?
Well, what immediately came to me was Happy Meals. And I know they still exist.
but not with the quality of toys that we used to get.
And not with the quality of toys and the quality of food, I feel like, too. Because back then, I feel like Happy Meals were... even the smell, like I can smell it right now, like the good, fresh, delicious smell of golden hot fries, delicious little nuggets. Oh my gosh. And then, of course, a great, cool, actual toy, like a full toy we would get in that little cute box, which Big is time. Adorable. I don't even think, do they still have the actual cardboard boxes?
They do.
They give them in the little with the arch.
They do, Good. And they design them different.
I know they switched to bags for a moment.
Yeah, well, so I think the distinction is if you get a Happy Meal, it is in that box. If you get a kids meal, which is like a step above, you get it in the bag.
Oh, cute.
Yes.
You gotta have the box. Well, I would just bring back the quality of Happy Meals that I do. I love McDonald's. It made my childhood. I spent many hours in the drive-thru.
Oh, big time. Did you used to go get the boo buckets at Halloween?
Oh my God, absolutely. Loved the little boo buckets.
Yes.
Bring those back too.
Well, the last couple of years, I think starting 2 years ago, they brought them back for every Halloween. They send me a little care package that has all the boo buckets. Yeah.
I would love a little boo bucket, McDonald's.
You heard it here first. Ashleigh, let me tell you, thank you, not only for your time today, but for just being such a dope source of inspiration. And I got to say, and hopefully you know this about yourself already, but from an outsider's perspective and somebody who's grown up as a big fan of animation, you are part of the new generation of future legends, in a big way. Like, you definitely, you can see that in all your work. You can see it in your passion, the same way that we grew up talking about, Tara Strong, Gray Delisle, D. Bradley Baker. That's you for kids that are little kids now. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's heavy. And I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
You bet.
Good. It makes me excited.
Hell yeah. Well, keep on doing your thing.
Thank you. Thanks for this too. This was great. You knew so much already. I appreciate it.
I try.
Thanks for taking the time. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, I'm all grown up.
SYKE!
Hey.
I'm all grown up. SYKE!